Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we will be talking NFL quarterbacks and, of course, AFC South quarterbacks with someone that knows very much a lot about NFL quarterbacks and playing the position. That would be NFL Hall of Famer, Mr. Warren Moon. How you doing, Mr. Moon?
I'm doing great today, Mike. How are you, man? How's everything down there in Tennessee?
Uh, Everything is great. Everything's great. Thank you again for joining me on this episode, a special episode. Of course, I'm going to get into how special this episode is for me, of course, right now with the Get Off Your Chest segment. Of course, usually I talk about anything sports or anything that's on my mind, but what's on my mind is episode 300. This is, for those that don't know, episode 300 for me. I mean, honestly, for someone that didn't really have expectations or thoughts of starting a podcast, 300 episodes is amazing because I've actually dove into it more. I actually found out how much I loved it. And also, I just enjoy doing these every week, whether it be one or two times a week. I enjoy it. And it's just a blessing and that to be able to have this opportunity to talk to people I've talked to, like you, Warren. Also, Steve Weiss, Jim Trotter, a lot of different people that I've had the pleasure of having on this show. And I just want to thank everyone that's listened, everyone that's poured into me and said, hey, keep going. Everyone that's just been a part of this journey, because everyone that listens, comments, that shares the show, anything like that, they have all been a part of this journey to 300. And I want to just thank everyone for just being a part of that journey. And hopefully more episodes or continue to come and I'll have another 100, 200, 300 episodes as well. And I want to also thank you again, Warren, because you also not only are the guest for this 300th episode, not only have been a guest on this show before, but you were one of the first guests I ever got on any station, anything, back when I was doing the League Sports Talk Show. You were one of the first guests I ever got on any show I'd ever been on at any time. I just want to thank you for your just being, genuine and just being open to the opportunities or the possibilities that I was trying to put out there, and while I was trying to get my footing in the business as well.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. I'm glad I could be a part of the 300 episodes that you put on, and whenever I see young African American, whether it's players or people in business or people in media, if I feel like I can help them, on their journey as they go forward, I'm going to try and do that. And you were no different. I saw a guy who was determined in this business, that wanted to be good in this business, that I had a passion for it, and it's one of the reasons why, I stuck my neck out and said, I'm going to help this young guy out and see what happens. Here we are, 300 episodes later. You're still doing this, and that's a testament to you. That's a testament to the relationships that you have with different people in sports. That you're still on the air. There's a lot of people out there trying to do podcasts, and a lot of them start out for a little while and they think they're doing the right things, and then they fall off the wayside. But consistency is what's important in this business, and you've had that. And I take my hat off to you. Congratulate you on the 300th episode, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me, Warren. And, coming from you and, definitely thank you. I thank you for just offering your time and seeing something in me that maybe at that point I may not have saw all the way in myself, but, seeing something in me as well, Warren. Again, thank you. Thank you, everyone that listens and comments and shares the episodes. I appreciate you. But we got to get into the episode, Warren. We got to get into the episode. And we're going to talk quarterbacks. And I couldn't thought of anyone that would be more qualified to talk about quarterback play than you. NFL Hall of Famer, could sling it with the best of them in the pocket, for sure. But I want to talk about somebody that's gotten a lot of criticism over his career. We're going to talk about the national quarterback scene first before we get into the AFC South. But I want to talk about a guy that's, he's got criticism wherever he's been, pretty much, except for one place because he didn't play in that place. But that would be Mr. Sam Darnold. He has the Minnesota Vikings undefeated so far this season. Let me give you a rundown of his numbers: 932 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 68.9% completion percentage. Wow. Going into this season, I did not have it on my bingo card that Sam Darnold would be leading the Vikings to 4-0. I mean, how impressive, or how impressed are you, or how surprised are you by what he's doing in Minnesota?
I'm really impressed. I think everybody's always known Sam's had great ability, physical ability, and that's one of the reasons why he's the number 3 overall pick when he went to the Jets. But when he went to the Jets, he wasn't surrounded with a lot. What happens to a lot of young quarterbacks, and we've seen it with other young quarterbacks like Bryce Young up in Carolina and different guys, if they're not surrounded with a great infrastructure, they're not going to be successful. And that's what happened to Sam. He was up there with the Jets. It wasn't a lot of structure there. He didn't have a lot of talent around him. He got knocked around a lot, and that can really destroy your confidence. So they gave up on him up there, and then he ended up going to Carolina, which was another situation that wasn't very conducive to great quarterback play, and we've seen that here, like I said, with Bryce Young. A lot of turnover in Carolina as well, so it didn't work for him there. Then he gets a chance to go out to San Francisco and be with the Mike Shanahan, and there's great structure in that program. And he got a chance to sit back and learn a little bit and not have to play right away and figure out what he could do best, and kind of got his confidence back. And now he's found a home in Minnesota where they have great confidence in him, and he's with a coach now that really believes in him and has kind of that same type of structure that he came from in San Francisco. So I think that's one of the reasons why he's starting to have success now. And then you look at the people that are around him. He's got a Jefferson, who's probably one of the best receivers in the league. He's got other really good receivers on that team, good tight end, good running game. So you put all that stuff into place with a guy who now has confidence, who also always had the physical ability, and that's why you start to see him start to flourish now. It's taken a little while for it to happen, and that happens sometimes with quarterbacks. But once it does click, now you've got a guy who can really be successful for you for a long time. He's not that old a guy, so he still has probably another 10 years left playing this game.
Yeah, the funny thing is he's actually, I believe,
has done a great job with him there in Minnesota in a short period of time, and they're reaping the benefits right now.
Definitely. I mean, he's actually is younger than Joe Burrow. Actually, I did not know that. I looked up, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" I looked it up. I was like, "Wow, this is amazing."
Yeah, he came out at, I think, at 20 years old when he came out of college. So he's a young guy. I think he 26, 27, something like that. And like I said, he's got a long career left.
Definitely. Another guy that's got a long career left, he's just getting started. That would be Mr. Jaden Daniels for the Washington Commanders. I did not expect that coming out. The 3-1 Washington Commanders, by the way. I mean, 82.1% completion percentage. I mean, he only has 3 touchdowns passing, but, he has had some spectacular plays, especially running the football as well as throwing the football. 4 touchdowns on the ground so far, 218 yards rushing. I mean, did you expect him to kind of hit the ground running like this with the Commanders? I mean, I know I surely did not expect this to happen so quickly for him.
Well, I think we always knew that the Commanders had good talent there, but again, there wasn't a whole lot of structure and consistency. And I'm talking from the top all the way down. Dan Snyder was a disaster as their owner. They finally got him out of there, and now they've got good football people in there. Dan Quinn is their head coach, who has been successful in this league for a long time on the defensive side. He was also a head coach in Atlanta, took a team to a Super Bowl. So he's got, coaching structure there. And then, Jaden played a lot of college football. I think he had something like 50 or more games under his belt when he came in, so he wasn't a young guy. And I met Jaden when he was a sophomore, and I was very impressed with his maturity and all of that when he was, 19 years old. And he's continued to keep showing that maturity the way he handles himself right now. And he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in this league. So it's not a total surprise to me, but yeah, whenever a rookie gets off to a great start like this, yeah, it's going to raise some eyebrows. But because of his physical abilities, the way he can use his legs, and he uses them, timely and smartly when he needs to, I'm really happy with the success that he's having so far so early. But yes, it is a little bit of a surprise because they're off to a 3-1 record. But this kid has really put the time in, and if everybody you talk to, that's what they talk about. He has been there every day. He's like a gym rat. He's in the building early. He's out the building late. So he's put the time in to go along with the experience he already had when he came there, and then a good structure around him.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a good structure around him. Now, the structure of one team with another rookie starting for them has been called into question a bit. That would be the Chicago Bears, the 2-2 Chicago Bears. Right now, of course, with Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, he hasn't necessarily looked like the guy that some people expected him to be. That could be due to, of course, him adjusting to the NFL, also the offensive line as well. But I mean, what are your thoughts on him through his first 4 games and what you've been able to see of him in terms of on the field?
There's no question Caleb was one of the more talented quarterbacks to come out in the draft in a long time. And I think if you asked anybody that today, they would say the same thing. Again, a lot of it has to go with where you go. And you look at the history of quarterbacks at the Chicago Bears, they just haven't done a great job of developing those guys. And I don't think they're doing a great job in developing Caleb right now. They're not running the ball enough, which is something that you want to see happen with a young guy. That's one of the things that they're doing in Washington with the Commanders. They're running the football as well as throwing the ball. And Caleb is a guy that has tremendous creativity as a quarterback. And he used a lot of that in college, but in the NFL, you can't get away with that as much. You have to become a little bit more structured in the way you throw the football. And the ball has to come out with rhythm, and you can't hold on to it too long, or these defensive lines will get to you. And I think he's going to learn that. And I think he's seeing that he can't get away with all the things that he got away with in college. So it's a learning process for every young quarterback that comes in the league. And I think he's still going through that. And once he figures that out, I still think he's going to be a very successful quarterback in this league. It's just going to take him a little bit longer because of his style of play compared to the style of play that he's probably being coached at. But he has good talent around him. I think they can do a little bit better job of improving the middle part of his offensive line. He hasn't had Keenan Allen out there a lot, who's another guy that can really be a security blanket for him. He's been hurt most of the season. So there's some things that they can do better to help out Caleb as far as his development. But I think once they figure all of that out, I think he's going to be successful still in this league.
Yeah, definitely not helping them out. I mean, I watched one play where Shelton was pulling, I believe this was against the Indianapolis Colts. Shelton was pulling, and the linebacker came up and just blew him out of the water, threw him out of the club. And I was like, okay, that can't happen. And I'm pretty sure this wasn't the only game that happened in. And I was just shaking my head. I'm like, man, he doesn't have a lot that's going on with that offensive line. But I want to kind of end this.
I think what teams are doing with him as well, they're understanding that offensive line isn't really up to speed, and he's a young guy. So a lot of teams are blitzing him a lot. They're blitzing him more than they normally do. I remember seeing the Texans game. I think it was first or second game of his career. They're not a big blitzing team, but they blitzed him, I think, almost 50% of the time in that ball game because their offensive line wasn't doing a good job of handling it, and he wasn't doing a great job of getting the ball out of his hands, and he took a beating that night. But I think those are just that learning process that you have to go through as a young quarterback to figure out this league.
Right. It just it was just interesting to see that how it was going there. But another guy that's going through an interesting moment and is definitely getting criticism right now is Jalen Hurts. He hasn't necessarily had the best times right now. He's 930 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 163 yards rushing, two TDs there. But, of course, watching him play, it kind of seems like sometimes he's kind of staring down his receivers, or, when he's rolling out, he's not necessarily taking what's there. How much of that is him, and how much of that is kind of just that offense in general? Now, I know they've been missing A.J. Brown for a couple weeks, and they did miss Devontae Smith this last weekend as well. But how much of that is him, and how much do you think that's actually just the offense in general not helping him?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I think right now Jalen isn't as comfortable as he was a couple of years ago when he was an MVP candidate when they went to the Super Bowl. Even last year, I think he didn't play as well as he could, and I think some of that has to do with coaching around him. He's had now his third different offensive coordinator. Shane Steichen was his coordinator when he had all that success. Going to the Super Bowl, he ends up getting a head coaching job. They bring in another offensive coordinator that next year, which was last year. He kind of digressed a little bit because of that. And then this year, they bring in another offensive coordinator. So he's having to kind of go through those growing pains of learning. I don't know if it's necessarily a new system, but I'm sure there's a lot of changeover from what he was doing when he was having all that success. And like you said, he's holding the football a little bit too long. He's not throwing with rhythm. He's not throwing within structure. And he's not using his legs the way he did as well. And that was something that made him very special, that he was a really good dual threat quarterback. And it doesn't seem like his legs are as much of a threat as they were a couple of years ago. So I think he needs to get back to feeling comfortable about getting the ball out of his hands quickly so he doesn't take all that punishment in the pocket, and then using his legs whenever he possibly can, if he's healthy, to put that extra pressure on the defense. And then, of course, it helps when you have a Devontae Adams and also make that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But not having those two guys in the lineup, and they're two of the more dynamic receivers in the league, you're missing those guys. So when those guys get back in the lineup, I'm sure that will make things a little bit better as well.
Yeah, definitely. You got Saquon Barkley. They got to feed him a little bit more as well. I didn't understand. I think he had like 10 carries last game. I know they were down pretty early. Big, but
he started the game off. I think 7 out of the first 9 plays were passes. So when you got a guy like Saquon behind you who's running the ball the way he is, you got to get that part of the game established first, and then start throwing the football.
Right, definitely. Well, it's been fun kind of going around a few national quarterbacks that I wanted to talk about and bring to the show, but we do have to talk about the AFC South quarterbacks. We're going to do that right after this commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, we are back on Touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we're going to talk about these quarterbacks in the AFC South. Now, before the season, I had the AFC South as being a surprise division that could potentially be one of the best divisions in the NFL. Right now, they're definitely not showing it. The Houston Texans are, doing what they do, but Jacksonville, Tennessee, and the Colts. The Colts are, kind of coming back 2-2 right now, but for overall, not necessarily doing as great as I thought they would. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the quarterback play. I want to start off with the first team I want to talk about, of course, is the Tennessee Titans. Of course, used to be the Houston Oilers, so you play for that franchise in some senses. But They have Mr. Will Levis as the starting quarterback. Currently, right now, 604 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Of course, he has the most turnovers in the NFL as a quarterback. And, not necessarily going as great as they thought it would go, or some thought it would go. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on him right now and how he's kind of handling things and how he's doing right now?
Will got off to a great start last year as a rookie. He got his first chance to play. I think I was at that game and he threw 4 touchdown passes. Everybody thought he was going to be the next coming of Tom Brady. But since then, the league has kind of caught up with him, and he showed the rest of the last season that he was a rookie quarterback, that he showed some promise, but he also showed that he was a rookie and made a lot of mistakes. Coming into this season, I thought there was a feeling that he was going to get off to a better start. He did have a new coaching staff, new offensive play caller and all those different things, and all those things kind of set back young guys. And you want to have consistency at that position, and if you don't have consistency in your coaching at that position, a young guy is going to struggle. I think Will is struggling a little bit because of that. But then some of it he brings on himself. The spontaneous type plays that he makes where, he just tries to toss the ball and make something happen as he's going to the ground and it ends up being a turnover. Those are the types of things that are not coached and that he has to take on upon himself and not make those type of mistakes. They're just mistakes that are
Inexcusable.
They're in the heat of the moment type mistakes, and he just has to be smarter with the football and learn that the most important thing that he can do is keep the football and not turn it over. And then when he makes a play like he did last week, where he's trying to dive out of bounds for a first down, and he ends up injuring himself, and now there's a chance that he might not even play. So those are things that you like about him, but you also don't like about him, because that daredevil mentality that he has can really hurt your football team sometimes. So now there's a chance that he might not play, and it's only because he tried to make one extra play in a game or at a time that it really wasn't necessary. So those are the things he has to get better at. There's no question he's a talented guy. He's got a great arm. He's got good mobility for a guy his size and that, but he still has to put all that stuff together and really learn within his mind that he has to take care of the football. That's the most important thing that he can do. And the second most important thing that he can do is be available to his football team. And you can't be available if you're putting your body in this.
That's true. Yeah, definitely. It's been a interesting experience checking out the thoughts on him from different analysts all the way to different fans. Which there's some fans that actually do want Mason Rudolph to start going forward. Which Brian Callahan put that to bed already. Said that, hey, if he's healthy, Will Levis is a starter. So it'll be interesting just to watch the development there. Now, a quarterback that should be more developed already, in my opinion, is Trevor Lawrence. The 0-4 Jaguars face off against, I believe, the Colts this week. And, of course, the Colts have always traditionally lost to the Jaguars in the last, I would say, 9 meetings down there in Jacksonville. So a chance for them to get off the schneid and, get the one win. To me, what do you make of what's going on with Trevor in Jacksonville?
That is probably one of the more puzzling questions and one of the more puzzling situations that I see going on in the NFL right now. Because Trevor Lawrence, when he came in the league, everybody thought that he was one of the highest rated, sure can't miss type quarterbacks to come out of college, since Andrew Luck. And he came in and he had to deal with what was the head coach's name that was there when he was
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. He had to deal with that whole situation. It wasn't the best situation for a young quarterback to come into it, and he got through that. And then when Doug Peterson comes in the next year, you have a guy who has gone to a Super Bowl, who played quarterback in the league, who's had success, and he had some success under Doug. He took the team to the playoffs. Won a playoff game with a great come from behind win in a playoff game, and then you thought going into his third year, things were going to really start to take off. And last year, they got off to a good start, and then all of a sudden he got banged up a little bit, and they really just went downhill over the last half of the season. So coming into this year, you thought, okay, he's healthy now. He's still got the same structure, same head coach in place, good talent around him, and he just has not played good football. He has not been accurate. He's turning the football over, not making big throws when he needs to, and he signs the big contract. And maybe the contract has put pressure on him. I don't know. I don't understand why he's not playing better than what he's playing right now. And it's really puzzling, I'm sure, to a lot of people in Jacksonville. I'm sure it's puzzling to his teammates. But in order for them to get the season turned around, he's got to start playing better football, because the quarterback position is so important in the league right now. We know that he can do it because we've seen him do it. I just don't see what's stopping him from doing it. And they're off to a bad start. And it looks like if they are able to drop these next couple of ball games, they got to go over to Europe and play a couple, and that I could see a coaching change happen in the middle of the season. I think Doug Peterson is going to take the blame for that, because they're not going to get rid of Trevor Lawrence. They're going to try and maybe find somebody who can get him going, and maybe that's what he needs, a change. I'm not sure, but that's a very puzzling one to me, because the guy is very talented. He can move, he can throw it. He can throw it from a lot of different angles and different platforms. But he's just not being accurate right now. He's missing guys that are wide open, and it's really, really baffling to see him play this.
Yeah, it's kind of it makes you scratch your head. Definitely was a can't miss prospect when he came out, and now he's a guy that he's not. I don't think he'll meet the generational talent level or that people had for him, but I think he just needs to, at this point, just be a solid quarterback. And it's just, to me, doesn't. I'm not sure, I know people want to blame, say, his offensive line or his receivers hadn't do this, didn't do that, or whatever. But ultimately, when you're getting paid on average of $55 million per year, you're getting paid to cover up some of those mistakes as well. That may be out there.
Yeah, he's had some turnover at the receiver spot. Calvin Ridley was there, and now he's not. Different guys have been in and out of the lineup. He's number 1 and 2 receivers, but again, like you said, when you're getting paid that much money, your job is to make other guys better around you. And if you don't have the best of talent because of who you are, you should make that talent rise. And he hasn't been able to do that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see the way the rest of this season goes. This next month, this season is going to tell a lot what's going to happen in Jacksonville going forward.
Definitely. Now, another quarterback that kind of is not necessarily, he basically is in his rookie season, kind of like in the same vein as Levis' second year, but the kind of rookie season. That would be Anthony Richardson. 654 yards so far, 50.6% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 1 rush touchdown. I mean, to me, I think his is different from Levis because the injuries have kind of hampered his development. And, how much can you speak to injuries maybe hampering the growth of maybe a young player there, that someone's high on or trying to develop within the system, especially at the quarterback position?
Yeah, injuries, all they do is slow down your progress. They slow down your development. And he started out the season last year. I just didn't think he should have started the season last year. He's a really young guy. He's 23 years old right now. He's younger than some of the guys that have been in the league 3 or 4 years. He's younger than some of these rookies right now. I think he's younger than Caleb Williams, and he's younger than Jaden Daniels. And so when they put him on the field that quickly, and he wasn't a guy that played a lot in college, I thought it was a mistake. And then he got hurt in his first year, and that didn't help. Now he comes into this season, and they felt like he was healthy, and they learned a lot over the offseason, and then they tried to put him out there again, and he got hurt again early. And so that's been part of his problem is staying healthy on the field. And the way he plays the game, he plays a more physical brand of football. But I think he's got to learn too to be more intelligent about when he takes on somebody and when he doesn't take on somebody. Hitting the ground, learning how to slide, getting out of bounds, all those different things. He needs to learn that so he can be available to his football team. But he's still a work in progress. I think he's one of the more physically talented quarterbacks that we've seen come into this league as far as his size, his arm strength, his leg talent, and all of that. And I think you're just going to have to be very patient with him because, again, he's a young guy that doesn't have a lot of experience playing quarterback under his belt. And I think he will get better in time, but he's got to stay healthy in order to do that so we can continue to keep developing.
Now, another question, just follow up. Where do you think, I'm not saying this is going to happen, by the way, if any Colts fans are listening, but when do you think there's a time that they could potentially say, okay, we're going to have to move on? If he keeps kind of staying on this injury path, would it be next year in year 3? Would it be year 4? Or just, what would be your thoughts there if he continues down this path?
Well, last year they had Gardner Minshew, and he did a good job when he took over as the starting quarterback to get them through the season, and they were competitive. I think they almost went to the playoffs. But this year, I'm not sure who their backup is.
So Joe Flacco.
And Joe came in. That's right, last week and did a good job, and they won the football game. Maybe you go with Joe the rest of the season, or at least until he shows that he can't play at that level anymore. And let Anthony sit back, get healthy, and learn from a veteran. Learn from somebody that's done it before, that's been to the Super Bowl, that's been a Super Bowl MVP, and had a comeback player of the year last year. There's no rush to put Anthony Richardson on the field. So let this guy develop, let him get his body right, let him continue to learn and learn how the game is played from a veteran quarterback, like Joe. And maybe I think that's the best formula going forward for him. I'm sure he wants to play right now. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the organization that want him to play because when they look at the physical talent and they look at this piece of raw clay that you have and know the potential you could have with him, it makes you want to put a guy out on the field right away. But I think the best thing for Anthony is to sit back and learn and watch for a bit. And we've seen guys that have sat back and watched, like Jordan Love and different guys like that. It's not the best. It's not the worst thing to happen to you to be patient because, like I said, he's a very young guy and he's got a lot of football left to play if he keeps himself healthy and continues to learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'll be interesting just to see how that development or lack of development due to injuries happens over the years following up. But one guy that kind of was, I guess, atypical to what you just mentioned would be Mr. C.J. Stroud. 67.6% completion percentage, 1,054 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions to start the season. Just picking up where he left off. I mean, how impressed are you with a young guy that just comes in and boom, doesn't have a great running game, by the way. Hasn't had it the first 2 years he's been there in Houston, but still comes in, gets it done, and it just looks like he's a guy that's been here before.
Yeah, when he came out of college, and I watched him play a lot at Ohio State for 2 years, he was the most pro-ready quarterback of all the quarterbacks that came out of the draft last year. I think that great draft that I don't know, 6 guys with the first round last year, something like that. I thought he was a guy that was probably going to have the most success early because of the structure that he came out of at Ohio State, the offense that they played. It was more of a pro-style offense where he could throw the football from the pocket. And then he showed people when they got into the college football playoffs his mobility. When he was playing against Georgia, he was making big plays outside the pocket with his legs. And he has the ability to do that, but he's a guy that wants to throw the football. So I think that's what he did when he came in. And I think a smart thing that the Texans did is they let him play the same type of offense that he used at Ohio State where he had so much success. So his learning curve wasn't that great. And he had more success because he was familiar with what he was doing. The ball was coming out of his hands quickly. He throws a very accurate football. He throws a very tight football. And then he had some weapons on the outside in Tank Dell and Collins. So this is a kid that got off to a great start. I think D'Amico Ryans has created a great culture there in Houston. They play really good defense. So if he does make a mistake, the defense can bail him out. And now they have Mixon in the backfield, to go along with some other guys like Singletary, and they can run the football too. So they're a very dangerous football team, and that's why they're sitting at 3-1 right now at the top of that division. And they will probably win this division just because of everything that they have in place right now. And C.J. Stroud has been very, very impressive. He's been very mature, and then he's put the numbers up.
Definitely. And then, of course, you added Stephon Diggs this offseason as well, and that makes them even better as well. So now you've got 3 weapons at wide receiver. I know Tank Dell did miss last game, but, he'll eventually be back, and, that just makes them even more dangerous. I think the biggest key to me with them is the offensive line. If the offensive line can run the football, can take ownership and produce those lanes for Joe Mixon to run, and then also protect C.J. Stroud, because there's been a little bit of protection issues more this year than there have been. If they can kind of shore those things up, and of course, Laramie Tunsil, the fall starts in the holdings. But if those things can kind of shore up, I definitely think they could be a team that can not only win the division, but, be the dark horse for the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, those things can be fixed. And I think if they're able to run the football just a little bit more successfully, that'll make them more of a threat, being able to run and throw the football, because most teams are going to come in trying to stop C.J. Stroud. And if you're going to put, 2 shield in the back, that's taking one guy out of the run force, and then you should be able to run the football. And if you can run the football, then all of a sudden you got to drop one of those safeties down in the box to try and stop the run, and that's where C.J. Stroud is going to kill you. So the running game is going to be very important for them to get that going, and that's just going to make C.J. Stroud a much better quarterback.
Definitely. Indeed. Well, we're going to take another quick commercial break. When we come back, I do want to actually talk about the evolution of the Black Quarterback, the Amazon Prime show. I actually just completed it and watched it, loved it. Want to kind of talk to you a little bit about that. But first, going to take a quick commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on Touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, I did get to watch Evolution of the Black Quarterback. Michael Vick was definitely, very, very, instrumental, I guess, in putting that together. And I enjoyed watching all 3 parts of it. I learned some stuff about you, Warren, and learned some stuff about other Black quarterbacks that were in the NFL that I did not know. And I was, very, very impressed by the way everything was put together. So I do have to ask you, how were you first kind of approached about this project?
I was approached by the producer of the project, and also Michael. I think I saw him at a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and he talked about putting this project together, and it was produced by Michael Strahan's production company. So Michael's the one who was actually the one that put this together, and I think Michael and Michael, the 2 Michaels got together, and Michael presented the idea to Michael Strahan, and he liked it, and so his production company kind of slowly put it together on how they wanted it to be structured in that, and then they approached me about being involved in it, and of course I wanted to do it because I think it's important that people see all the success that African American quarterbacks are having right now in the league, with Patrick Mahomes winning Super Bowls, with Dak Prescott being the highest paid player in the league, with all the success that all these guys are having. But where did all this start? And what did guys go through in order to get to this position? Because we've always known that the quarterback position was not a very prevalent position for African Americans, maybe up to, I don't know, 30 years ago when Shaq Harris and Marlon Briscoe and Joe Gilliam and guys like that, first broke into the league. It's been a very difficult uphill battle for us to play that position for a lot of different reasons, for stereotypes, some cases just pure racism, that we've been kept out of getting those opportunities. So I think it was great for them to go back and show what a lot of those pioneers of the league went through in order to get us to where we are right now. And I think that's why they call it the evolution. We're talking about from the beginning all the way up to where we are now. And let people see exactly what African Americans went through in order to play one of the most difficult positions to play in all of team sports. And it's also a leadership position, and a position where you're a face of a franchise, and all the different things that come along with playing quarterback in the NFL. It was a position at one point that people didn't want us to play that position, and we kind of persevered and broke through all the barriers and different obstacles that we had to go through to get there, and we've arrived. But I think it's great for people to be able to see what all went into that.
Definitely. And of course, you like you mentioned, Michael Strahan's production company is behind it, but Michael Vick was, for all intents and purposes, he was the host of the show.
Right.
So how was it kind of speaking to Michael Vick about everything? Now, for those that haven't watched, Warren is on the second episode. They're sitting in the Rose Bowl. They're actually touring the Rose Bowl. And I definitely do remember the part of you talking about your fro, the fro picture, the picture with your fro and everything. I was like, yeah, I remember when I used to have a fro before I went to locks. But yeah, definitely was remembering that picture. And then also, some of the stories that you didn't really tell. That's what I noticed about the entire thing, is that you were hearing stories of that you never really have heard outside of that show, which, that I guess that people have been keeping for years, that, with them. So, with Michael, I'm pretty sure that, the comfortability to mention those stories was there. And how was it kind of just, speaking with Michael Vick about these different things that happened over your career?
Yeah, it's so much easier to talk to somebody who's kind of went through some of the same things that you've gone through. A guy that actually plays the quarterback position, first of all. That's something we'll always have in common. And then the second thing is we're both Black, and we've both dealt with some of the same type of issues that each of us had to go through in order to keep playing this position. So it felt very comfortable to talk to somebody like that knows what you've gone through, and it makes it easier for you to be open. And at this point in my life, of course, it's easier for me to be open about a lot of things as well that I used to hold back on, that I didn't want to burden anybody with, whether it was my family or whatever. And my family learned a lot about me watching this story, because these are things that I had never really talked to even them about, because I never wanted them to worry about. I never wanted them to worry any more than what they already had to endure, what they watched themselves. So that's kind of the way I tried to handle my career, and the things that I had to deal with. Is I kept a lot of it inside of me, because of that. It created some mental health issues for me as well, and I ended up getting some therapy later on in my career. So yeah, I think they did a great job on the piece, and I think people will be really interested that haven't watched it. And if they're football fans and want to know what goes through an athlete's mind, not just what you see on the football field, but what he deals with off the field every day, I think people will really get a lot of knowledge about what it takes to be a quarterback in the National Football League, and then on top of that, what it takes to be a African American quarterback in the National Football League.
Definitely. One thing I also, definitely, How would you say that you would hope this project is accepted and seen, just with all the different depths that it went through with talking about, you got Shaq Harris, you got Colin Kaepernick in this. You've got so many different quarterbacks at different eras and times in this whole series. So how would you expect this, or how do you wish this project would be seen by people that actually do watch it?
I just hope people accept it for the honesty of it. There's going to be people that don't want to hear, about, maybe white people don't want to hear about racism and how guys were treated that way. And there's some people that say, "Hey, well, I'm not that way, so why do we need to talk about that?" Because these are things that we dealt with, and we're just talking about the honesty of what we dealt with at the position, and we're talking about a game here. We're not talking about being elected to be a president of the United States or something like that. We're talking about just playing a game, but it shows you how important that position is in society, that people made it so difficult to be able to play that position for us because of everything that the position means. So I just hope people accept it for the honesty of it, that they understand that it wasn't easy for these guys who are out there back in the day and also even today. And just have a little bit more, patience for who we are, and give more opportunities to more guys, because that's all I ever wanted. For the time that I played, I felt like I had to play at a certain level in order to get that next generation of guys more opportunities to play the position, because that was one of the things that I was denied a lot of my time coming up, was just the opportunity to show that I could play quarterback. And once I was given the opportunity, then I proved myself, that I proved to everybody that I could. But if you don't get an opportunity to do anything, whether it's play quarterback or be a doctor or be a lawyer or whatever it might be, you'll never be able to show what you can do. So I think with this documentary will show that if you give guys the opportunity to do what they can do, they're either going to be good enough to do it and they'll flourish, or at least they know where they stand and they'll say, "Hey, well, I wasn't good enough, so I'll go do something else." But not given the opportunity in life, I think that's one of the worst things that can happen to any young person, no matter what color they are.
And for those that don't know, Warren was not drafted into the NFL. He actually, Warren, you were one of the more talented quarterbacks to come out that year, and were not drafted. You had to go to Canada, go up there, rec shop in Canada to even get an opportunity that was with the Houston Oilers, now the Tennessee Titans, which that itself was just mind-blowing in its own right that happened. But I don't want to tell too much about the documentary or the series. But if you can, go watch Evolution of the Black Quarterback on Amazon Prime. Give yourself a good night or a couple nights to watch it. You'll definitely learn a lot. You'll definitely hear a lot. You'll definitely be educated on a lot of different things that happen over time in the NFL when it comes to Black quarterbacks. I definitely thank you for talking about that episode, those episodes, and then also how it all came together as well. And I definitely enjoyed it. But of course, I don't want to end the show with just talking about the evolution of the Black quarterback. I want to end it with a game so we can have a little bit of fun to end out the show. Are you ready, Warren?
I'm ready.
All right. We got Michael Vick or Cam Newton. Which quarterback would you take at their prime?
Wow. Their prime. I'd probably take Cam Newton. Michael Vick, there's no question, was an electrifying player, especially with his speed, with his legs and that. With Cam, I think he could do more things with, and he became a much better passer the longer that he was in the league. He really got banged up a lot because of his physical nature, but I thought the way he came into the league, I think he had the best rookie numbers that we've ever had in this league. He threw for 4,000 yards his first season in the league, and also ran 4,000 yards. So probably Cam Newton.
Okay. All right. Kansas City or Minnesota? Which place did you enjoy playing in more?
Kansas City or Minnesota. I probably enjoyed Minnesota more because I actually played more. In Kansas City, that was at the end of my career. I was 43, 44 years old. Where in Minnesota, I had got traded there from Houston, and I was still, I think I was 36, 37 years old, and I had some of my best years playing the game in Minnesota. Really enjoyed living there and the environment and that. So, yeah, Kansas City's still a place where I have a lot of good friends, but again, because I didn't play as much there compared to where I was in Minnesota, I'd have to say Minnesota experience.
Okay. All right. The Kingdome or Arrowhead, which stadium was more impressive to you?
Ooh. Well, the Kingdome, is because it was a dome, I think was what made it unique. Um, but Arrowhead Stadium, man, that's probably one of the best football environments for a home team that I've seen all around the National Football League. You're talking about 80,000 people all in red. Those people live and breathe for the Kansas City Chiefs. I played against the Chiefs in there, and I also played for the organization. So I've seen both sides of it, being on the home team, being on the visiting side. And the Kingdome was one of the more noisier places to play. But I tell you what, for an outdoor stadium, that Arrowhead Stadium was a difficult place to play.
Got you. Okay. Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, which QB would you take currently?
Wow. That's a heck of a question. I'd have to go with Lamar Jackson right now just because he's a two-time MVP. He had his team in the AFC Championship last year. He continues to just keep getting better and better every year. He's still a young guy. I tell you what, Josh Allen is very, very impressive too, and he's off to an MVP type season right now. But I think because of Lamar's, because of his age, he's a little bit younger, and I think because of what he has on his resume being a two-time MVP, I think that puts him over the top.
Okay. All right. Now I've got a position in the NFL, but it's not quarterback. Which position is more important, the center or the offensive tackles?
In today's football, because of the passing game, you better have good offensive tackles because these guys coming off the edge, they run anywhere from 4.4 to 4.3 40s coming off those edges. So you better have offensive tackles that can block the quarterback. The center is still one of the most important positions in football because he makes the line calls. He gets gets the line sliding in the right direction. And then because these defensive tackles have become so good in the middle of the defensive line, you got to have good guards and a good center as well. So that's a hard one to evaluate as well. But I think those tackles are still important, that your quarterback feels comfortable that he's not going to get hit in the back, get hit in his blind side. So I'd have to say I'd go with the tackles.
Okay. All right. 5 questions, 2 answers, 1 choice. You are off the hot seat, Mr. Warren Moon. I want to thank you for being a guest on my 300th episode. Thank you for the kind words. And just I look forward to when we can kind of catch up again, and I can actually have a whole nother set of questions for you as well. But if you can tell everyone where they can find you on social media, or any other things you may be working on.
I think on Twitter I'm at WMoon1, and then on Instagram I'm at WarrenMoon1. Yeah, I'm not a huge social media guy, but I do have somebody that kind of puts things up for me when I need to put up. But I know the value of it, but I also don't like to get too involved in it because you just put stuff out there on social media. But yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me. And I'm doing a lot of things with my foundation. I have a foundation called Brothers in Arms, along with Andre Ware and Vince Young, and we provide scholarships to underprivileged high school kids to go to college. They come from single mom homes like we all three did. So that's something we're working on a lot now with fundraising and different events. So it's a little bit about what I'm doing right now. And again, Mike, I want to thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on your 300th episode. Keep doing what you're doing and keep putting out all this great information to the public so they can you'll learn from all these different sports celebrities that you have on about what's going on in their lives.
Thank you. And thank you again for coming on again, Warren. Of course, those that don't know me, I'm the host of the show, Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82. The artist formerly known as Twitter. Shouting out to Prince right there. Of course, one of the greatest artists of all time. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. And of course, you can find Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We're also on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. I want to thank you all again for tuning in to this episode, the 300th episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.